Good morning. Thank you for joining us on this Remembrance Day. I'm Joel Senek. In just a few minutes, we will take you live to the Field of Crosses Remembrance Day ceremony. Each year, thousands of people gather at the annual tribute along Memorial Drive to remember the lives lost in battle. Businessman and philanthropist Murray McCann brought the idea for the Field of Crosses to Calgary back in 2009. He had seen a similar tribute while visiting the city of Menlo, Georgia. McCann, along with his longtime friend George Bittman, who at that time headed up the Calgary Poppy Fund, joined forces to make it a reality. Well, the Field of Crosses project is a 5-acre display open to the public November 1st through to the 11th. 3,500 crosses that each display the name, rank, regiment, date of death, and age at death of a Southern Alberta soldier killed in action. Many have additional information about the soldier for visitors to read as well. A flag and a poppy are also placed at each cross. There are 120 other unique crosses for viewing in a separate section of the memorial. A special honor to the 120,000 heroes from across Canada who lost their lives fighting for our freedom. Sunrise and sunset ceremonies are also held each day with a moving flag-raising ceremony that pays tribute to a chosen group. Of course, the display wouldn't be possible without the help of hundreds of volunteers who set it up alongside Memorial Drive each year. The crosses are all cleaned, the bases are installed, and then the crosses go up. For the first 10 years, Murray McCann paid for the display himself before gifting it to the public. It is now a registered charity and relies solely on support from the community. And I had a chance to speak with Murray earlier about why this project is so important. Murray, when you started this 16 years ago, what was the main goal you had in your mind?
The main goal was to cause people to remember. I had forgotten, except I had a profound experience in Georgia when I saw a little town that just before their Memorial Day, they had crosses along the road for those from that town who had lost their lives in foreign wars. And it had such an impact on me to see those crosses, and so many of them, for such a small, and the price we paid for freedom. And I was just thinking, I've had the best of this freedom, and I never really gave it a lot of thought, even my company. People could choose to take that day off or exchange it for another day. And it was just made me think of how fortunate we all were.
I know children are such a big part of this. Students, why is that important?
Well, again, Joe, so that we never forget, and passing it on to that next generation is so important because, you know, previous generations were taught in school. Now it's really, in most places, not even a part of the curriculum.
When you get to go to the Field of Crosses, do you still have that same emotion you did 16 years ago?
I challenge anybody to go through the Field of Crosses and not get emotion. When you look at those names on the horizontal bar of the cross, the ages of them, and if you stop and read the name and the age when they died, and it'll talk to you about families that lost their husbands or their sons, and you cannot go through that field without being emotional.
Now, the Field of Crosses is lit 24/7, and on the eve of Remembrance Day, those who fought for our freedom are also honored with a night of lights. At sunset last night, volunteers, including students from St. Mary's University, lit candles inside lanterns in front of each of the 3,620 crosses. Those lanterns were left to burn until sunrise this morning. a very touching and beautiful way to pay tribute to those who gave the ultimate sacrifice. And as we've mentioned, the Field of Crosses is a charity. People are encouraged to adopt a cross in support of the project. You can head to fieldofcrosses.com if you're interested. Okay, let's take you live now to the Field of Crosses. The Calgary Fire Department pipes and drums begin this morning's ceremony with their traditional parade march. The pipes and drums have been around since the turn of the century. Members are professional firefighters and employees of the Calgary Fire Department. They travel throughout Western Canada, taking part in charitable events and memorial services. Linda Olson will guide us through this year's Field of Crosses observance as Calgary remembers.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Linda Olson. It's my honor to be the MC for today's Remembrance Day ceremony here at the Field of Crosses in Calgary. It is here that over 3,500 crosses stand each year to acknowledge individuals from southern Alberta who have made the ultimate sacrifice during active duty in service to Canada during times of war, conflict, and peace. On Remembrance Day, Canadians pause to honor and give thanks for those of every generation who have served Canada in uniform, at sea, on land, and in the air. In this year, marking the 80th anniversary of the D-Day landings and the Battle of Normandy, we pay special tribute to those who demonstrated the strength, determination, and will that was necessary to face the hardships of that campaign. More than 14,000 Canadians landed or parachuted into France on D-Day. The Royal Canadian Navy contributed 80 vessels, while the RCAF contributed 18 squadrons in direct support of the assault. We also recognize the 100th anniversary of the Royal Canadian Air Force. The RCAF was born in 1924 to protect and preserve the freedoms of all Canadians, to contribute to global peace and security, and to help those in need in Canada and abroad. The RCAF has a long and distinguished history with many proud traditions that merit recognition by all Canadians. The RCAF provides air defense, maritime patrol, search and rescue, air mobility and sustainment, aerospace control, and space capabilities to support operations at home and abroad. The RCAF is a respected military partner worldwide, providing security at home through NORAD and working with our NATO allies and partners to maintain peace and stability across the globe. We gather on the land known as Mohkinstsis at the confluence of where the Bow River meets the Elbow River. This is the ancestral homeland of many First Nations who make up the peoples of the Treaty 7 region in southern Alberta. This includes the Niitsitapi, or Blackfoot people, the Kainai, the Piikani, the Siksika, and the Tsuut'ina people, and the Îyârhe Nakoda people, which includes the Bearspaw, the Chiniki, and Goodstoney First Nations. The city of Calgary is also home to the Métis Nation of Alberta, Districts 5 and 6. The Field of Crosses honors the significant contribution of many First Nations service members who are commemorated here in the field and acknowledge their service and sacrifice. Let us all now join Cantari Children's Choir under the direction of Graham Climie in the singing of our national anthem. The horrors of the First World War released a great outburst of emotional poetry from the soldiers who fought in it. One of the most well-known poems was written by Canadian medic, Lieutenant Colonel Dr. John McCrae in Ypres, Belgium in May 1915, in response to the death of McCrae's close friend killed in battle. Murray McCann, founder of the Field of Crosses, will join us on stage and recite In Flanders Fields.
In Flanders fields, the poppies blow. Between the crosses, row on row, which mark our space. And in the sky, the lark still bravely singing fly, scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders field. Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you, from failing hands we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high. Ye lose faith, with us who die we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders fields.
The Second World War began in 1939. Soon, most of Europe was under Nazi control. The conquered countries on the European continent would suffer greatly under harsh occupation. An Allied raid on the French coast at Dieppe in August 1942 would result in heavy losses, especially for Canadian troops. But the Allies would slowly turn the tide in North Africa, Italy, and on the Eastern Front, in the skies over Europe and in the Atlantic Ocean. But to win the war, the Nazis would have to be defeated on the ground. And 1944 would be the year the Allies would strike back. Preparations for the Battle of Normandy, codenamed Operation Overlord, began a year earlier. Land, sea, and air forces trained extensively, and the necessary troops, ships, tanks, supplies, and other equipment were steadily amassed. In the months before the landings, Allied warplanes undertook countless missions, attacking coastal defenses and lines of transport in occupied Europe. Despite questionable weather conditions, the Allied High Command made the decision to attack on June 6, 1944, heading for an 80-kilometer stretch of the Normandy coast. There were 5 landing zones, each assigned a different nation. More than 450 members of the 1st Canadian Parachute Battalion jumped inland before dawn and were the first of our soldiers to engage the enemy on D-Day. A few hours later, some 14,000 Canadian troops would begin to come ashore along the 8-kilometer stretch at Juno Beach. Our soldiers would then push inland towards the city of Caen, an important communications and transport center. The Canadians successfully captured their shoreline positions and penetrated the farthest inland of any of the Allied troops. But D-Day was only the beginning of the struggle to liberate France. The first month of fighting was an exercise in grim endurance as the combat intensified and capturing Caen remained elusive. Normandy was the beginning of 11 months of hard fighting in Northwest Europe. Canadians went on to play an important role in bitter struggles in the Scheldt, the Rhineland, and the Netherlands. Canada's impressive efforts in the Second World War remain a great point of great national pride, even many decades later. The brave Canadians who came ashore on D-Day and saw action in the Battle of Normandy were among the more than 1 million men and women from our country who served in the cause of peace and freedom during the conflict. Cantari Children's Choir will now sing "We Remember Them" by composer Susan Labar.
As the opening of the
Pilot Officer John Gillespie McGee Jr. was a fighter pilot of the Royal Canadian Air Force in World War II. Following a high-altitude test flight in a Spitfire, he was inspired to write a sonnet which boasts of the gleeful and ethereal portrayal of aviation, along with an allegorical interpretation of death and transcendence. McGee was killed in a training accident in 1941 at the age of 19. The poem illustrates how the experience of flying creates the emotion of awe, which seems to transcend earthly boundaries to become divine. Ada DeWalt from Cantari Children's Choir will present High Flight, the official poem of the Royal Canadian Air Force.
High Flight by Pilot Officer John Gillespie McGee, Jr. Oh, I have slipped the surly bonds of earth and danced the skies on laughter-silvered wings. Sunward I've climbed and joined the tumbling mirth of sun-split clouds, and done 100 things you have not dreamed of, wheeled and soared and swung high in the sunlit silence. Hovering there, I've chased the shouting wind along and flung my eager craft through footless halls of air. Up, up the long, delirious, burning blue, I've topped the wind-swept heights with easy grace, where never lark or ever eagle flew. And while with silent, lifting mind I've trod the high, untrespassed sanctity of space, put out my hand and touched the face of God.
Many Canadians today have had no personal experience of war. War is something that happened somewhere else, in a land far away. But as we observe the 80th anniversary of D-Day, we acknowledge the air crew flying overhead, the sailors in warships, the troops in assault craft battering their way through the stormy swell to the shore. It is impossible to grasp the courage it would have taken to charge into the fury of battle on that day, which remains one of the most ambitious military operations in history. But it came at a tremendous cost. The Canadians suffered the highest casualties of any divisions in the British Army Group during the campaign. Some 359 Canadian soldiers were killed on D-Day alone, and more than 5,000 would die in the 2.5 months of fighting in Normandy. Over 13,000 more of our soldiers were wounded in the Battle of Normandy, with many suffering injuries to body and mind that they would carry for the rest of their lives. Most of our fallen heroes from the Battle of Normandy lie buried in France in the beautiful Bonneuil-sur-Mer Canadian War Cemetery and the Bretteville-sur-Lez Canadian War Cemetery. But it is our honor here at the Field of Crosses to honor those from southern Alberta who gave the supreme sacrifice of their lives. Aviator Tanner Jarvis of the 409 Tactical Fighter Squad will lead us in the act of remembrance, followed by the commitment to remember presented by Cantari Choir.
They shall not grow old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. On all the oceans, white caps flow. There are no crosses, row on row. But they who sleep beneath the seas rest in peace, for our land is free. We will remember them.
They served, giving freely of themselves. To them we pledge, amid the winds of time, to carry their torch and never forget. We will remember them. We will remember them.
Our bugler, Adam Zinatelli from the Calgary Philharmonic Orchestra, will sound the last post. During the 2 minutes of silence, we will remember the 120,000 Canadians who died serving this great country, and especially the 3,500 Southern Albertans who are remembered here in the Field of Crosses. Piper Nathaniel Trotter will play the traditional lament, Flowers of the Forest, which is followed by Rouse.
Pray, attention! Bugle, last post.
we acknowledge the flypasts of the Royal Canadian Armed Forces 2 CF-18 fighter jets. Since its inception in 1924, the Royal Canadian Air Force served Canadians in peace and war. In the Second World War, our young Air Force experienced tremendous growth and development and played a vital role. In 1939, the RCAF had only 4,000 personnel, less than a dozen airports, and few training facilities. In December 1939, Canada, Great Britain, New Zealand, and Australia signed an agreement creating the British Commonwealth Air Training Program, which would be located in Canada, resulting in a rapid expansion of the Air Force. Alberta and Saskatchewan played a critical role. Wide open skies, generally clear weather, and large tracts of sparsely occupied land provided the perfect conditions for air bases that needed many runways and lots of flying room beyond the range of enemy aircraft. Canada built 7,000 hangars, barracks, and drill halls for the air bases and training schools. Most training schools had 3 runways. More than 131,000 personnel from all over the world were trained as pilots, navigators, bomb aimers, wireless operators, air gunners, and flight engineers. By late 1944, the RCAF reached its peak as the 4th largest Allied Air Force, with more than 215,000 personnel in uniform, including 17,000 members in the Women's Division. By the time the war ended, more than 18,000 members of the RCAF had given their lives in the service of their country. The large presence of the British Commonwealth Air Training Program in southern Alberta meant that during the Second World War, most of the recruits from this area served in the Air Force. The names in our roll call today are those who gave their lives in service to their country in May or June of 1944 as members of the Royal Canadian Air Force. Flying Officer Ernest James Allen, 23. Flight Sergeant Lloyd George Anderson, 27. Flight Officer Clyde Glencoe Archibald, 23. Sergeant Stanley Percy Beach, 25. Leading Aircraftman Elmer Stephen Beingessner, 21. Pilot Officer Leonard Douglas Bonnet, 21. Pilot Officer Jonathan Riley Bradley, 21. Warrant Officer 2, William Earl Brown, 21. Pilot Officer James Edward Byers, 22. Flight Sergeant Archibald Burton Campbell, 21. Pilot Officer Kenneth Laverne Cannings, 20. Flying Officer John Arthur Cole, 23. Warrant Officer 2, Frederick Sayer Dewis, 20. Flying Officer John Lionel Emery, 20. Pilot Officer Alan Gilmore Fairless, 28. Pilot Officer Richard William Francis, 19. Pilot Officer Andrew Lorne George, 30. Flying Officer Louis Rockford Georgeson, 26. Pilot Officer Arthur Taylor Gill, 29. Warrant Officer 2, Edward Henry Gehring, 20. Pilot Officer Warren Douglas Hall, 21. Flying Officer Paul Wood Henderson, 25. Flight Lieutenant John Hodgson, 22. Flying Officer Benjamin Peter Johnson, 22. Flying Officer Elmer Orville Johnson, 26. Flying Officer Gordon Lawrence King, 23. Pilot Officer Douglas Smith Kirkwood, 22. Sergeant John Michael Logelin, 31. Pilot Officer Dwayne Earl Liebert, 20. Sergeant Philip Keith Matkin, 24. Flying Officer Roy McLeod, 20. Flying Officer Arthur McLaughlin Miller, 28. Flying Officer Frederick William Morrison, 27. Pilot Officer Donald Fullerton Nielsen, 27. Pilot Officer Archibald Thomas Noble, 28. Pilot Officer Robert Carlton Parker, 22. Pilot Officer Ernest Moyer Parsons, 23. Flight Sergeant Andrew Pollock, 22. Pilot Officer Ross Joseph Phillips, 24.
Forgive you.
Wreaths will be laid in honor of those who gave the supreme sacrifice. Today, wreaths will be laid on behalf of the following: Canada, Province of Alberta, City of Calgary, Memorial Cross parents, Royal Canadian Air Force, Royal Canadian Navy, Canadian Army, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, Alberta Health Services, EMS, Calgary Police Service, Calgary Fire Department, Field of Crosses, YPRA 3rd Unit Canadian Army Veterans, the Bittman family, and the McCann Family Foundation. As the wreaths are laid, Cantari Children's Choir will sing The Parting Glass with soloist Graham Climie.
Of all the money that e'er I had, I spent it in good company, and all of the harm that e'er I've done, alas, it was to none but me. And all I've done for want of wit to memory now I can't recall. So fill to me the parting glass. Good night and joy be with you all. Of all the comrades that e'er I had, this sorry for my going away, and all of the sweethearts that e'er I had, they would wish me one more day to stay. But since it falls unto my lot that I should rise, though you should not, I will gently rise and I'll softly call. Good night and joy be with you all. A man may drink and not be drunk. A man may fight and not be slain. A man may court a pretty girl and perhaps be welcome home again. But since it has so ordered been a time to rise and a time to fall, so fill to
Let us now all join our voices with Cantari's Children's Choir in the singing of the royal anthem, God Save the King. To conclude the formal part of our Remembrance Day program, we invite the choir Rev 52, under the direction of John Morgan, to sing Smile. This wartime song lifted the spirits of those who were struggling and gave people a sense of hope. The Calgary Fire Department pipes and drums will play another tune to put us all in the marching spirit. You're asked to remain in place until the pipes and drums have finished playing and our uniformed personnel have been dismissed. Thank you all for being part of the Field of Crosses Remembrance Day ceremony.
Light up your face with gladness, hide every trace of sadness.
You have been watching another powerful ceremony this morning to mark Remembrance Day here in our city. And that concludes our special broadcast of Calgary Remembers, live from the Field of Crosses. I'm Joel Senek for Linda Olson and the entire Global News team. Thank you for watching.